And welcome to Rotisserie Chicken Podcast. All chicken, all rotisserie. I'm here sitting next to lovely, beautiful Anna, the big chick, Lecky.
And this is the ill Jacob Worthington, who is gracing us with his presence, even though he feels
bad. I don't feel good.
Less than great. So props to him.
I feel good about the pod. I feel good about the cast.
You know what you need right now?
The sweet release.
Yeah, or some good chicken soup. You know.
Yeah, maybe that might
a good chicken soup.
That might not be bad. Go to Bentham and Bailey's and get the chicken pot pie stew. Pretty good. Pretty good.
So today, the episode that we're bringing to you is going to be all about Luigi Mangione.
Who's that? I haven't heard anything about this person.
We'll get into it. It's going to be pertinent to our time. There's going to be a lot of kind of gray area, I think, to this case and kind of what we chat about, and at least what we know. At the time of filming, it's a little bit past a month of when the first incident took place. And so as a society and a peoples, we've had about 30 days to really mull this over. And I know going into it, I'm going to try and be mindful as to not let my opinion and my personal experiences take over the majority of the way that I read this case.
You're going to try to be matter of fact about it.
I'm going to try to be matter of fact about it, but of course, bias is going to slip in. But I think it's hard. I think with something like this, this might be one of the most important events of.
We might have to do something.
Why? It was our boy.
Our small child. He's
What's he doing? What's he doing?
He's definitely.
Oh.
He's trying to play.
He's trying to play. If he doesn't know that we're doing RCP.
Give us a quick shout out, my child. Oh, I thought that was him. I was like, dang, dude, he's got a voice for radio. All right, let's put him out.
No, he can be in here.
He was smacking the bags around.
You think it's gonna pick up?
Yeah, I mean, I could put this stuff somewhere else.
That's probably just what you'll need to do. He'll go play with it somewhere else. Okay.
All right, where were we?
What I was saying is I think this might be one of the most important things within this decade to happen.
Oh man.
And it's because of the conversations that it's starting. And so let me just get into it.
Okay.
I didn't take a ton of notes. I'm kind of going off most of the dome. I have like a couple article snippets and things like that I want to kind of insert, but let me wet my whistle.
Wet that whistle. Let me wet my whistle.
Let's moisten our whistles.
God, that is a
Why did you have to drink it like that?
Whistle.
Why did you drink it like that?
That's
You were like, let me do this in the most annoying way possible.
So they can hear it.
No, nobody wants to hear that, Jacob.
Create.
Nobody wants to hear that.
It's radio, baby. How do they know if I'm drinking if they don't hear it?
Nobody wants to hear that. Okay. So on December 4th, 2024, as the United Healthcare CEO was exiting from his Midtown Manhattan Hilton hotel and walking towards the United Health Investors Conference that he was the keynote speaker of that day, at roughly 6:44, he was approached by a stealthy, jacketed, masked man who shot him 3 times, once in the leg and twice in the back, and then proceeded to calmly leave the crime scene. Upon surveillance footage and CC footage that came out, of this incident, which this immediately made national news as such a brazen and callous killing. What was seen in the CC footage was someone who was postured himself with a rigidly accurate shot, a 3D printed gun with the silencer that was later to be found, but someone who re-racked the gun with precision through each shot and seemed like someone who knew what they were doing, who was calm under the circumstance, and who was a calculated killer. Okay, so this made national news. We all know, we were there. This wasn't.
Might have heard something about this.
Yeah, this wasn't that far ago. So what was circulating was that this was maybe a hit because it was seriously just so precise.
Looked like it.
It was so precise. Even police officers were being interviewed, right? Saying this is somebody who is probably
Skillful.
Professionally trained. Yeah. Yeah. What was your first impression on who that person might have been?
My expert opinion.
Because you're ex-military, so let's preface that.
Former.
Yeah.
My personal opinion was the homie got assassinated, probably like in like a corporate way, like some type of like corporate issue, another company, maybe somebody within the company, maybe some type of like financial lender. You know, a lot of these whistleblowers are just ending up dead.
Yeah.
The Boeing whistleblower, the OpenAI whistleblower. So, you know, I think there's some murdering is becoming part of corporate culture, maybe. So I thought that made the most amount of sense.
But Brian Thompson wasn't a whistleblower, right?
No, but he was supposed to testify in front of Congress, in like a week or two.
Yeah, I think so.
So that, you know, a lot of people end up dead a week before testifying at Congress.
Yeah.
It's a thing in our culture.
Well, I think that this act brought about a kind of social support for the act that hadn't been seen before, where I think police and some people were anticipating people being like, oh no, that's awful, like justice for Brian Thompson, but that's not what public reception was of this event.
That wasn't?
No, absolutely not. It was not public reception of this event. What ended up occurring is people were 100%. Well, I say 100%. But
Anna's like people were 100%.
But roughly 40% of the people that were polled were sympathetic towards the shooter. Why? Because the American healthcare system, insurance.
What? We don't know. You haven't explained this to us yet. We don't know any of that yet.
Okay. Well, what we do know at this point is that the CEO of United Healthcare, the insurance company, that over the past 3 years since Brian Thompson took leadership, got the claim denial rate up from 9% to 32% within 3 years. And it's reported that he made the company $200 billion. Okay? Off of...
Well, how do we know that's related initially? Initially, what gave us away that this may have been motivated by frustration with the healthcare system?
Well, at this point, we don't know. But what I'm saying is that the public perception at this point, we don't know why the killer did it. We don't know why he was killed. But public perception was in support of the killer at this time with no information. And it's because of the disfavorment with the American healthcare system, particularly insurance, and kind of the callous nature in which some health insurance companies deny claims. So that's where we're at, right?
Sounds like victim blaming.
Does it?
Yeah, it sounds like people like, if you didn't want to get shot in the street, probably shouldn't have dressed that way. Probably shouldn't have dressed like that, Brian Thompson, in your sleeveless pullover.
You make a really good point before we get into the logistics, is that there are jobs that take a certain level of risk. You were in the American military. That brings on risk, doesn't it?
A little bit.
Yeah, that brings on a safety risk. If you're the president of the United States, that brings on risk. You could consider a position like this to bring on a certain amount of risk. Okay. All right. So about, so everybody's like freaking out. The media releases this shot of the perpetrated or the suspected killer, and everybody goes, why is his smile like that?
Oh, you mean the picture from the...
Yes, where the person is depicted as flirting with the barista, and everybody goes, whoa, wait a minute.
You gotta break it down a little bit better.
Okay.
You were like, the picture's released. Where's this picture from? What happened? What's going on
Okay,
now?
the NYPD releases a picture of the suspect that morning at Starbucks. What has been captured by CCTV, right?
Yeah.
And sends it out to the public and the media in attempts that somebody will identify this person. Everybody goes, okay. we were
rizzed up. People were rizzed up by one CCTV camera picture of an assassin.
Everybody was like, okay, not only was this act like there's public support for it, but this dude might be actually hot. And that's a whole nother ball game in this whole
I think
scenario.
Two things come to mind. One, Starbucks missing an excellent opportunity. America runs on Dunkin'. Well, the revolution is fueled by Starbucks. Am I right? That basically writes itself. And then two, can we talk about pretty privilege? You know what I mean? People like to talk about white privilege or male privilege, but pretty privilege.
Yeah.
This man he's not going to walk, but he might get off better just because he's a good-looking young lad.
And he turned out to be. I'm sorry. I know it.
What?
I'm a woman. I'm a female. I got eyes. He is. Okay. Anyways. So the suspect, he's kind of tracked through CCTV throughout New York after this incident, riding his bike from the crime scene. He stashed a bike. He dropped...
An e-bike.
An e-bike.
Which shows that he's conscientious about the environment.
He does seem to be conscientious, yeah. So he stashes a backpack in Central Park and actually goes to the bus station, gets on a bus, and exits New York. But what people didn't know is where he went at the time. So 5 days later, on December 9th, the local police receive a phone call from a McDonald's employee at the Altoona, Pennsylvania McDonald's, right? Saying that she has someone dining in her, what's it called? Cafeteria? Is that what they call it?
I mean, I just like dining area, I guess. It's a dining room. It's McDonald's. It's a restaurant.
Dining in
I wouldn't
Mr.
say a cafeteria
room. That fits the bill. The police show up. They question the person. They find 4 fake IDs on him. They find in his bag
not a good look.
A 3D printed gun. They didn't find the silencer though, which is strange. But they find a 3D printed gun. They find a 268 word manifesto, which will be deemed the mini-festo.
The mini-festo? Okay, that's cute.
The mini-festo. Because it was short.
I will say, this McDonald's lady, like, the fact that she was able to look at regular Luigi and be like, that's him, is insane.
Right, and it is, because none of the media pictures, except for one, really looked like him, which is strange. I will say there is rumor that Luigi told her to call in on him so she could get the reward money, because I think the reward money up to this point was to 50 grand.
50 grand. I will say that I have a friend who looks exactly like the Starbucks photo, and I sent it to him as soon as it was released. I said, homie, is this you? And he was like, don't tell nobody.
What? Well, let me ask you this. Was the guy that you sent that to super Italian?
No.
He was Aryan, right?
I mean, Italians are Aryan, I guess, but...
Well, no, I'm talking about Aryan and, like, lighter eyes, lighter hair.
You're talking about, like...
Yeah, because that's what that original photo looked like, was somebody with lighter features.
I will say my friend looks like he could be Italian. He looks exactly like Flynn Rider from Rapunzel.
Blue eyes.
No, I think he has brown eyes. I'm not certain though. I couldn't see brown eyes in the CC.
You don't know what your friend's eye color is?
No idea.
Have you ever looked into him?
When we used to share a bed together, we would snuggle. The lights were off. You know, so
there was no daytime interaction. I'm confused with this.
Maybe dudes don't know what their dudes' friends' eyes.
What color are
look like.
my eyes?
Red most of the time. Can I say something? This might get cut out, but on Anna's little note sheet, she has a word that I have no idea what it is, but it is unpresented. Even word is like, yo, we got nothing here. We don't know what this word is. She said unprecedented attention.
Okay.
Oh, unprecedented.
Yeah, I fucked that up, obviously. Yeah, that's what it's supposed to say. Okay. The suspect is then taken into custody and identified publicly as 26-year-old Luigi Mangione from Maryland. What is really interesting about this suspect is that he is a highly intelligent, highly educated, from all aspects, successful, kind, charming. He was a Penn graduate. So Penn is an Ivy League school in Pennsylvania. He graduated with a bachelor's degree in computer science with a concentration in AI and went on to do a 5-year expedited master's degree within the program. And not to mention that he graduated from Gilman High School as the valedictorian, which was an all-boys school. Yeah, so he was a highly accomplished, extremely intelligent person. He actually went on to do a summer leading a workshop in AI at Stanford. So this guy, clearly very intelligent. You know, his social media presence, his kind of internet, what do they call it? Your internet
persona. Not
persona, but they call it your
footprint.
Yeah, your like internet footprint. They call it something else where you're it's kind of like all of the stuff you've ever posted online. There's like a term for it. And it just follows you. And everybody's saying...
Your permanent record.
Yeah. That this day and age, especially if you're on the younger side, anything you do on the internet or research or post or, you know, can easily be kind of tracked at some point. So it's never truly anonymous, you know, unless you got like a VPN and like maybe a... You know.
I also want this to be a lesson to you that if you're growing up or you've lived a life and you looked at somebody in your life and was like, God, man, this guy's got it all. Valedictorian, Ivy League, good looking. That road could end up at getting arrested in a McDonald's dining area. You know what I mean? You can't always judge people by where they're at. You know? You're not doing too bad is what I'm saying. You're not incarcerated in a New York jail.
But I think it was part of the plan.
You think it was?
I do.
Let's get down the road and
let's
find out.
Let's get into it. Okay. So Luigi Mangione, by all respects, was someone who was highly kind of revered by his peers and his friends, and notably was an extremely kind person through interaction, where he lived in Hawaii in kind of like a shared co-working space as of most recently, and he, you know, there's stories coming out about how if he ate ice cream out of the community fridge, he would replace it with a bow on top, and yeah, just super thoughtful, super kind guy. So everybody's kind of having trouble putting together this brazen act with this guy, and then they're like, well, what happened? Where did he go after graduating Penn, getting an amazing job in a tech company? You know, most notably, and I didn't mention this, everybody is aware, but he came from an extremely wealthy family, upwards from a net worth around $50 to $100 million. So what was kind of theorized as the motive for the killing was it a disgruntled father who lost a child to a healthcare denial? Was it someone who couldn't afford to pay their insurance bills? Was it someone speaking out against the injustice to those who don't have money within the system, who are constantly taken advantage of? You know, they were having a hard time seeing the perpetrator with those people, you know, but within the manifesto.
The manifesto. So cute. Such an adorable way to refer to something when someone like reasons why they killed somebody else.
Yeah, and I want to take a moment to read his manifesto. Okay, so this is what was found on his notebook at the time. So this might give you a little insight into why he committed the crime. To the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. This was fairly trivial. Some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. The spiral notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it, which I don't think those have been released, right? My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. I do apologize for any strife of traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. A reminder, the United States has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly 42 in life expectancy. United is the largest company in the U.S. by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, Walmart. And I think what he meant by market cap was by like revenue, market revenue. It has grown and grown, but as our life expectancy. No, the reality is these indecipherable have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have space, and frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. But many have illuminated the corruption and greed. Decades ago, the problem simply remains. Or they outlined it decades ago, but the problem simply remains. It is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I'm the first to face it with such brutal honesty. Okay. I mean, you know what my question is about this?
Yeah.
The United States is number 42 in life expectancy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons for this. Okay? If we're looking at the systemic failures of the United States, which, granted, there's not a whole lot of humor in this. You know, Jacob's the comedic relief in this episode.
Womp womp.
I spend a lot of time thinking about this. I spend a lot of time ruminating about this. I have a lot of emotions about it. I have a lot of emotions about the United States, and I have the United States that I grew up with in the 90s and the United States that we live in now, and it feels different. Doesn't it feel different? Yeah. It feels different. So, Jacob made a statement yesterday that, what did you say? That I'm something in my carriage and my horses, or what did you say?
I said that that she allows her emotions to run away with her, and she is like in a carriage with no rein, being driven by horses named Rage and Fury. Because she gets worked up, and then she becomes just a passenger in her own self, and she's being driven by fury and rage.
And I said, are you trying to make me sound super badass? Because I feel that way. But I'm a millennial.
What?
Believe it or not, I am.
I thought you were at least maybe Gen Alpha.
Thank you. I don't know.
21, 19.
Thank you. I'm a millennial. Listen, I also have a ton of health issues, and I've navigated the healthcare system. I've navigated insurance for 3 years, and it's been one of the worst experiences of my entire life. I will say that, so Luigi apparently has had back problems and back pain, and had a subsequent failed surgery. It's had something called like spondylus. What was it called? Spondylosis. Spondylitis, right?
I got that.
Okay, yeah. So I think he had some failed attempts. So we're looking at this manifesto is pretty clear. Manifesto is pretty clear, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, one, you're gonna have a hard time pleading not guilty with something like this on you.
Which he ended up pleading not guilty in trial. So he has all this. So it's you know, and what we hear about things is that the prosecutors have evidence. He was found with 4 fake IDs. He was, you know, blah 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 blah. The fake ID found with was used to check into the hostel that the killer was staying at. There's all this evidence, but these are the things that are kind of connecting the dots of this case. Public opinion. What happened to make him commit this violence? Is it insanity or is it extremely methodical? And where do we draw the line on political activism?
No, it's murder, I think.
And outright violence.
I think I think for the most part, it's murdering people.
Which it is. And I do want to say, I don't condone this violence. I think that if you shoot someone in the street, justice should be served.
Depending on the situation. I think in our society as it is right now, for the most part, we're a free, democratic, law-abiding, constitutionally bound civilization. And so shooting somebody in the street who hasn't necessarily broken any of the laws, but is just kind of a piece of shit, is not good. Now, if our system changed so that we were in like a tyrannical, like, you know, if we were like Pol Pot's, Cambodia, and people are being rounded up by the government because they wear glasses, and we don't want people who can read to be alive. And if you have glasses on, you're clearly trying to read. I think at that point, it's politically okay to shoot these people. You know what I mean? So there are times for violence. But again, like I said, as our society stands right now, there are still avenues to kind of approach, you know, protesting or creating organizations or, shining a light, documentaries. There's like ways to voice dissent and then garner a movement that kind of like pushes against things that are being done wrong in our civilization. It's when there are no peaceful avenues any longer, I think then turning to violence is acceptable.
Yeah.
The American Revolution is a pretty decent example of when we all culturally accept violence as an answer.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah, sure.
So to me, like, what I'm thinking about is that Bogle makes a really good point. So there's someone called Gurwinder Bogle who's a writer, and he's on Substack, and Luigi ended up subscribing to his Substack and getting a 2-hour video call with him. So Bogle had an inside look kind of into Luigi that many of us don't, and an understanding, and his takeaway was that he was very intelligent, very kind, but did have a lot of disillusion about where we're at. Okay, welcome to the club. But
welcome to the club.
Bogle says that he goes on to describe Brian Thompson, you know, saying that killing Brian Thompson was kind of futile because he was a cog in a vast and unfair system that's controlled by no single person, but by the cumulative actions of millions of people operating in their own immediate interests. Mm-hmm. So, true. So it seems like the killing of Brian Thompson is only just a drop in the bucket of the change that needs to happen, right? So, let me ask you about the Second Amendment.
Whoa.
Okay. This is what I want to know. The Second Amendment, what was it founded on the principle of?
The Second Amendment, as laid out by many founding fathers who spoke and wrote on this subject was that the intent of the Second Amendment was to protect the First. And it's the idea that an unarmed populace could never preserve their rights because there would be a disbalance in power. Mm-hmm. So if you didn't have a means to correct an attempt at tyranny, then tyranny was all but guaranteed.
Okay, so it was like a protection against a tyrannical government.
100%.
So as to if the government tries to tyrannically oppress you, you have proper defense against it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Thomas Jefferson said that the tree of liberty should be watered with the blood of tyrants every so often.
Who said that?
Thomas Jefferson.
That's amazing.
One of the original ginger fucking gangsters.
Well, let me ask you this. The economic landscape back when the Constitution was founded is entirely different from the economic landscape we have today. Mm-hmm. Yeah, how far does it extend? Okay. If you have your American government, but government is in bed with all of these corporations. And so it's like you have this government that oversees your country, but now you have these corporations that almost serve to, they pay for all the lobbyists. They pay to have these kind of protections from the government in order to meet their best interests, but it turns into kind of this tyrannical system.
It's called a corporatocracy.
Okay, thank you. Do you think that America has a corporatocracy?
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Okay. Would the Second Amendment bleed to protections of tyrannical oppression of corporatocracies if it is in fact in bed with the American government? Would that then spill over?
I think two things on this subject. I think there's an argument to be made there, but in truth, my opinion on Luigi as being such a smart and talented young man with a certain set of skills, that shooting one fucking dude mm-hmm. is actually a complete waste of his talent. That his energy could have been more effectively placed in creating an organization or campaigning or fighting against the machine on like a legal logistical front. Even still to do illegal shit, if he had gotten like Anonymous, the hacking organization that was started in like the late 90s, if he had gotten together with people and had just infiltrated these upper communications and shown complete disregard for the lives of the consumers or actual like backdoor communications with legislators, that would have been way more effective in garnering change than just shooting one dude in the street. Mm-hmm. Now that it spur a larger conversation, yeah, but as Martin Luther King taught, is that when you use violent means to spur change, you give the opponents the ammunition they need to destroy your character or your movement, because now they can just be like, that my detractors are crazy, violent people. You know what I mean? So now you've given them the ability to kind of deride your character, and you've lost what people refer to as the moral high ground. Well,
but okay, so let me ask you this. I think the dilemma here is that I think a lot of people feel that that proper ethical, structured political activism against the systemic problems that we have here in the country, that you're trying to vote for the right political affiliates to represent your interests. But then you find out that those people actually don't, that they're just as much a part of the corporatocracy as the next guy, that you think, which I've thought about getting involved in in political action in terms of like actual healthcare and like big pharma. You know, I think things should be more regulated. I think big companies and industries should be held more accountable for poor outcomes. But I think people are almost seeing these actions as completely futile. That if you are not the most powerful man in the world, if you do not have the most money in the world, if you do not have industry in your back pocket, you will not be able to make a change. And I think that's where Luigi was coming from, and that's what we see in his manifesto, is that he said, you know, he said that he needed to be, he said, evidently, I just lost it, but he basically said that I'm going to be the first to do this, which he's not the first, you know, but maybe in this category. I don't know. It definitely makes a statement, but, you know, there's so many mixed emotions because, for one, and you made a really good point. If from my perspective, you know, I'm not going to speak for you or other people, but I know I'm all like, I get why this happened, and I get the message, and I support Luigi's message. Maybe not his actions, but I do support Luigi's message. But setting the precedence that if you want to make a statement and you disagree with someone, that you can go kill them. It's like, at some point that will extend past what I support. You know, where do we draw the line there?
Yeah, if you create this as an acceptable form of political speech, which is some people making the argument, there's a really old idea in ethics that if something can't be applied everywhere to any circumstance, then it is not ethical. So the idea of I just shoot anybody I disagree with politically can't be applied to every political position, then it's not ethical. And so basically Luigi Mangione, no matter how much you agree with his message, the act is no different than the guy who shot Martin Luther King or JFK or Abraham Lincoln. He thought that this person was politically or in some way damaging the country and felt the need to take it on to remove him from life. And if you okay that, then what is it, you know, what's stopping it from doing it to something that someone shooting Luigi, you know what I mean? Someone shooting Bernie Sanders, who is probably the biggest voice in getting healthcare reform in the United States, at least within Congress. So it's like, you okay this once, but then what happens when people start doing it in a way that you don't agree with? And then now all of a sudden, you're the very person you were arguing against when it came to Luigi. I will say, I do want to do the back half. I would like to do the back half of this podcast wearing tinfoil hats, because we will get into a little bit of conspiracy theory, I think, if this goes a little bit further. I did have something else I forgot, but I got fucking sidetracked.
You know, the point's been made that a society cannot function ruled by anarchy, or, you know, lacking rule. So having anarchy, that a society needs law and order and needs I completely agree with that. But then what do you do? What do you do in the circumstance where your voice, your power, the ability to make change just isn't present? What do you do? Like, is the next step, like, you know, we look at the Second Amendment, and it's because people were afraid that their government would completely rule and govern them, and that's not what people wanted. But what do you do when you're in a society that the rule of the land and the government of the land is literally killing and destroying people? Well, what do you do?
So I think several things. One, people aren't actually working as hard as they may act like they are to create change. Most people who have really, really strong opinions on this subject, the only thing they do politically is vote in the presidential election.
But how do you really know that, though? I think that's conjecture. I mean,
No.
you're not watching the lives of these people.
No, this is routinely borne out in statistics, electoral statistics, that like only half of like the population voting electorate vote in the presidential election. So it's not even the entire electorate. Not even everybody in the United States gets involved in the presidential election. That number is then severely reduced when it comes to midterms, and even more reduced when it comes to state, and then even more reduced when it comes to like county elections are determined by like 1,000 people in some counties, where it's like, you know, it's like 1,000 people vote.
Well,
and then elections are won and lost by like 10 or 20 people, and then that's only people getting involved in the political process. That's not even taking into account people who, you know, make decisions what they do with their lives. Like, I feel like a lot of people who are like, we're exhausted with actually nothing changing and we work so hard. Most of those people don't actually do anything in their day-to-day life to exact any change, whether it's protesting, volunteering, or even fucking voting.
Well, how much control do we even have on the political candidates that end up getting nominated or elected, which we kind of saw this year? I mean,
but we've seen in our own town where we lived, which we won't name.
In our own town.
But we won't name. But we watched somebody our own age with no political background get elected to as a county, whatever our county seat or chair was.
Then what happened?
And then she just gave up. She just gave up. She said, this is hard. She said, this is hard. They won't let me do whatever I want to. So she just stopped going.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a perfect metaphor for the millennial generation. Is they're shown that they could do something if they got organized. In the moment it gets tough, they're just like, this is harder than I thought it was, and they just kind of quit. I don't get like super butthurt over the system not changing very different, because I don't put a lot of time and energy in being that change.
Okay, well, so maybe your point is that we see what Luigi did and we're going, yeah, this is pertinent. Something needs to change. You can't kill people, so let's get organized and let's do something to change this. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think, and Luigi is a prime example, is that he had all the opportunity to create something like actually effective and long lasting. He had the intelligence, the skills, the position. He was connected to a wealthy family. His cousin was politically engaged as a state representative. His family owned nursing homes. Like, he could become like a legitimate changing force within a small sliver of the country. And if more people in those positions took up that mindset and opportunity, that's how you create a movement. You know, that's how things have basically always ever changed, is a whole lot of people trying to change an aspect of the small ecosystem they existed in, and then it accumulates and becomes like a larger movement.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let me ask you this, or I think so. It's kind of theorized because his family did own nursing homes and was super wealthy, and they're in several industries. I think they own country clubs and they own.
That's how you know you're rich. If you own where rich people go to be rich, you're rich.
Yeah. But I think, I mean, it is possible, you know, Luigi has not said a word with his own mouth that in an interview or anything like this. So a lot of this is like people who knew him, media exposition, all this stuff. He was, I would say, estranged from his family for about 6 months, maybe longer. They called a missing persons report on him in November because they hadn't heard from him. But I kind of theorized that maybe he saw some inside information on what was happening in those nursing homes and how it was run, which United Healthcare And tinfoil hats are on.
I was about to say, we need the tinfoil hats.
Tinfoil hats are on. I don't know how much of this is true. This is just what I've heard and what I've caught wind of. But United Healthcare actually went into Maryland, which is where these nursing homes were, bought up a ton of these nursing homes. But I think, so Luigi's family still owns the nursing homes, but they might work or be partnered with United Healthcare. I don't know. But maybe he saw some shit behind the scenes that was like, holy crap, this is big. You want to know another tinfoil hat?
Well, I will say my tinfoil hat. Luigi said illuminate and illumination twice in his manifesto. Think about it.
So there was a data leak, United Healthcare data leak that occurred last year. It was one of the largest data leaks in history. According to the report, over 100 million Americans through a breach at their subsidiary Change Healthcare, which handles medical claims processing, was breached. Key points. So this handles claims processing, right? There's theories that with Luigi's background in data scientist, he's a genius. Robotics, AI. There's theories that did Luigi do this? Did Luigi breach this information and find information through the claims processing that he got the information of?
I think
Did he?
much more of his time would have been better well served to doing if he had done something like this and found inappropriate behavior on United Healthcare's part. I think that would have been a much more useful example of his skills,
It says, well, this is from the HIPAA journal. I didn't know HIPAA had its own journal. It's funny. Which is the healthcare, what does HIPAA stand for? What's the acronym? Healthcare Information Privacy Act, Association Act, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. Every time I had to answer that question in nursing school, I was like, I don't fucking remember.
So on February 11th, 2024, an affiliate of the Black Cat ALPHV ransomware group breached Change Healthcare's network and then spent 9 days inside the network, moving laterally and stealing data before ransomware was used to encrypt files.
Yeah, I don't think that's Luigi. Because ransomware, I don't see Luigi holding people's medical information for ransom.
Yeah.
I will say this.
He's a good dude.
People talk about the U.S. A lot of the medical, and of course there are problems in the medical industry, but a lot of the problems in the medical industry are exacerbated by personal choice and inappropriate statistical analysis. So, like, for example, one thing that I always hear is that we have a higher death infant mortality rate than other first world nations. But a lot of other first world nations don't take into account pregnancies. And we do. So when we count infant mortality, we count children lost in the womb. And a lot of the other nations, they don't. So they're losing like half of their statistics. Also, from my perspective, the vast majority of the things killing people, at least in my ICU, are their own choices. They're drug overdoses, their long-term drug uses, or their inappropriate dietary habits. And that could be laid at the feet of like a whole different set of corporations.
Yeah.
But the number one killers in the United States are still going to be heart disease. You know what I mean? It's obesity. It's diabetes. It's conditions that people have given themselves. And I think it's something like 42 or 45% of the U.S. is obese. We're like the fattest country in the entire world. Of course, our mortality rate is going to be kind of skewed.
Well, I would argue that that's also due partly to the corporatocracy that's involved here.
And
because,
I said that when I was making that point. but that's a different set of corporations.
The pricing of food, the packaged goods, the chemical ingredients, there's more McDonald's in your town than there are grocery stores, like blah, 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 blah. There's so many reasons for that. I think it's systemic in nature. There's a huge problem. But, again, going back to Bogle's point, he said you can't kill your way out of a problem that's ultimately no one's fault.
Mm-hmm.
I can agree with that. I think maybe you can't pinpoint, okay, it's that guy's fault. He deserves retribution. Maybe you can't pinpoint that, but you can look at kind of key players that are propagating the unethical means of creating shareholder value or whatever. Maybe death isn't the right answer, but maybe we need to figure out a way. We need to fix this,
And I think that's the thing, is that it is a constellation of issues that is causing the problem. Mm-hmm. It is something to do with culture. At the root, we are a bigger culture. You know what I mean? You go to like nothing. People, when they make fun of America and other countries, they make fun of like triple stack burgers where the buns are grilled cheese sandwiches, which is a real thing that is sold at a restaurant like 3 miles from our house.
It's America.
I don't think that there's the Vortex is an evil corporation trying to no, people want to eat dumb fucking shit here. Also, there, like RFK is talking about, is there's a lot of stuff in our food that other countries don't allow to be in their food. Yeah. And I agree that, if something's shown to be cancerous or poisonous or be like the shitty version of something, also corporations found out that they could trick us into eating high fructose corn syrup instead of actual natural sugar cane and save immense amount of profit. So even the sugar we're killing ourselves with isn't even actual fucking sugar.
Mm-hmm. It's a mess. It's a damn mess. Yeah, 100%.
It's enough to make you want to fucking shoot somebody in the street.
Yeah. So, this is the thing. In prefacing, we're not condoning the violence, but this act has really brought a movement, not just in the United States, but globally, saying, what can we do? What can we do? But so this trial is going to be really, really interesting.
We'll probably do another episode once the trial starts.
100%.
We'll do a part 2.
100%. A lot of people are super worried he's not really going to get an unfair trial. And it's because there's so much information leaked about the trial that the media and that the populace kind of already has this opinion. And also, I was looking at, so there's been 3 documentaries made so far on this already.
Damn.
There's like a Hulu one, there's a TMZ one. And the documentaries are proceeding as if he's already guilty.
Well,
which I understand. Yeah, the evidence looks that way, but in a court of law, he has not been tried and convicted as guilty yet. But there's already this kind of so people are thinking he might not get a fair trial. There's going to be powers at play. There's also kind of this, did you hear the speech that his lawyer made?
Mm-hmm.
His lawyer, Karen, who is also the wife of Diddy's lawyer right now.
Crazy.
Yes.
And they're in the same jail.
They're in the same jail, and he just got moved to the same floor as Diddy.
And, little side note, that's the jail that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself in.
Well, so apparently Luigi has hired a prison consultant to kind of help guide the transition of life into the,
Wait, what?
Yeah, he hired a prison
consultant?
Yeah.
Listen, don't drop the soap, buddy. Rule number 1.
Yeah.
And what is, he's like, if they step to you, you gotta step back. Whites with the whites. Like, what? Mm-hmm. What is a prison consultant? And again, this is another thing. rich people just got a better time of it. You know what I mean? Even in prison, a rich dude is getting a consultant to how to like. I would shank you if you said that to me. If you were like my prison consultant said I shouldn't, I would just stab you immediately.
Well, okay. So what's been reported is that actually Luigi has a lot of support on the inside as well.
I'm sure he does. He's like a Robin Hood figure.
He got that fade, boy. You see him
with
that fade.
He does got some stizzle. There is some stizzle.
Yeah.
Can we get into do we have time to get into the Pokemon or?
Yeah, we do. I just wanted to tell you that a prison consultant's a professional who helps people prepare for incarceration, navigate the prison system, and re-enter society after their sentence.
I think I saw that movie with Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart, where Will Ferrell hires Kevin Hart as a prison consultant.
Is that really what? I haven't seen that.
Yeah, but Will Ferrell's like, the whole point is Will Ferrell's kind of racist. And he assumed that Kevin Hart knew about prison just because he was black. And, like, Kevin Hart's character was, like, the softest black dude ever and tried to train Will Ferrell for an experience he's never been through.
So, do you, well, I did want to say, wrapping up the prison consultant segment, is that, so Luigi got moved to the more secure unit of that prison, which is where Diddy is. So they're now on the same unit.
No Diddy.
Yeah, which is really interesting. Like, I wonder what Luigi's feelings about Diddy are, you know? Like, is Diddy safe, you know what I mean?
Dude, Diddy might not be safe.
He might not be.
I don't know, dude. Diddy wasn't denying people's, like, healthcare claims.
No, Diddy was doing a lot of horrific things to people.
Shit.
Yeah, he was doing a lot of...
Allegedly. We like to, until... found guilty, we like to presume innocence on this podcast, so allegedly.
All right, do you want to lead this 286?
Well, the whole
playground?
thing, so
look at that shit.
I'm going off the dome as well, but the whole thing is that Luigi had on his, I think his LinkedIn or Twitter or something, he had on a Pokemon who in the...
It was his Twitter, yeah.
It was his Twitter, which
Thanks.
In a Pokedex, which is the list of Pokemon, this Pokemon is 286. Mm-hmm. And then in the Bible, Psalms 28:6, it has the Bible verse that talks about how it's like better to walk straight on the path as a poor man than crooked as a rich man, which is kind of like a nod to like, but then also Luigi, the McDonald's he was arrested at was 286 miles from where the shooting was. So that's why some people think that Luigi intended on getting caught there.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many articles on conspiracies that he was a CIA plant, that, you know,
he is exactly what the CIA does like to find people who have like a bit of a moral ambiguity, a passion to be driven by some type of like larger idea, physically healthy, at least he's like active, and then also like very intelligent.
Yeah. A really interesting theory that I heard the other day that I don't think is true, but it was a really interesting kind of like TikTok theory, was that Luigi's not actually the shooter. That he was working in tandem with someone who was the person that was released in the original picture. Whoever was like, that doesn't even look like Luigi. That he was working with that person, that Luigi is going to have an extremely solid alibi for where he was during the shooting, but he had the evidence on him. And so it's basically to like subvert the investigation. That he pled not guilty, but that'll actually get off because his alibi will exclude him. And if he does get charged, it'll be for like conspiracy to harm or like aiding and abetting. It's a much lower sentence, but the actual perpetrator won't be caught. I don't know. That was kind of like a theory. It doesn't seem super plausible or like well thought out or anything like that. But
I think he did it.
Yeah, I mean, it seems that way. But again, in a court of law, He has not been proven guilty. So under the assumption that he is, it's kind of like, it's not great. Also, I don't know.
Now's the time to let it go. You did such a good job being impartial for the most part.
Did I?
Except for when the little middle part where you like started to tear up and almost cry. So if you want to let your true feelings kind of be known here at the tail end, I think this is perfect because we're gonna have to wrap it up.
I mean, can you not tell how I actually feel? Again, I've said that I don't think you should be killing people, but listen, free Luigi, my guy.
He doesn't even have a TV.
Free Luigi.
He doesn't even have a TV.
He doesn't even have a TV. That was the funniest shit I've ever seen when that newscaster was outside the prison and all of the other inmates were in there going, free Luigi.
The interviewer was shouting questions to prisoners from through the gates outside of a prison, and they're like, "No, he ain't even got a TV."
They were like, "Luigi's conditions suck. Get him out of here."
I knowing jail people, knowing what dudes and bros and homies be like, there's a high probability that none of those people have interacted with Luigi or have any idea where he is or what his conditions are like. They're just hollering at news crews people just because there's nothing else to do when locked up.
Yeah. Also, just to finish this, let me do a little PSA to my peers here.
Peers.
Let's do a better job. Let's do a better job at like actually working to change things, and let's stop like watching Netflix all day and playing on our phone and being like yeah, shit needs to change. Like, let's just start, like, let's get some good political candidates in the game. Let's get some people we can stand behind. Let's get some people who we actually trust. Let's
get a 3D printer off Amazon.com. Let's print our own fucking firearms. Let's find out where these motherfuckers are, dude. Let's shoot them in the goddamn head. We kill enough of them. What are they gonna do?
Satire. We're on a watch list now, clearly.
Satire.
But it's
satire.
We all need to do a better job. We all do. So, bagog.
Try to eat healthier, folks. Don't get fat. It's a terrible way to die.
Yeah. Put the eagle back into his coop.
Put the eagle back into his coop.
I wish I had some like super cool cryptic poem to read right now.
One fish, two fish, red fish, blew his fucking brains out on the streets of New York fish.
Condolences to Brian Thompson's family. Goodbye.